This is a CBS News special report. President Biden is now giving an update. Let's listen in.
These grants cover California's firefighting costs for things like firefighting equipment, firefighters' salaries, and special capabilities like aircraft. Next, yesterday I immediately approved Governor Newsom's request for what they call, and I know this is all sounds like government talk, but it's called the Major Disaster Declaration. This declaration allows folks, at the request of the governor, the declaration allows folks who have been impacted to get immediate cash assistance to cover things like everything from groceries to baby formula to prescriptions, because as you've seen and you reported, a lot of these places are burned to the ground. There's not a single thing left in their homes. And so if they contact disasterassistance.gov, anybody who's lost everything or anything of consequence, disasterassistance.gov or 1-800-621-3362. That's disasterassistance.gov, 1-800-621-3362 to get the kind of help they need for everything from the basics that they don't have access to right now. And this morning, due to the magnitude of the disaster, I was talking with the governor, and he requested if I could increase the federal funding that was authorized under this legislation from 75% to 90%. We're increasing it to 100% of all the costs to be covered by the federal government for both the fire management assistance grants and the elements of what they call the disaster declaration. So today I'm announcing that the federal government will cover 100% of the cost for 180 days. This is going to pay for things like debris and hazard material removal, temporary shelters, first responders' salaries, and all necessary measures to protect life and property. And folks, I want to underscore, I told the governor and local officials, spare no expense to do what they need to do and contain these fires and in their communities that have really been devastated. And we're doing literally everything we can at a federal level. That's also why I call this group of folks around this table of all relevant federal departments and agencies together to discuss what more we can do. And some of the folks are on the screen as well. Before we begin things, here's an update on where things stand right now. First, we're focused on helping contain these fires. Over the last 24 hours, the United States Forest Service, working with state and local responders, has suppressed over 50 fire starts. And the fire in the Hollywood Hills has been contained by brave firefighters risking their lives. Right now, 3 major fires are still burning in the Pacific Palisades, in Pasadena, and in Sylmar. I want to be clear. What I know from talking to the governor, that there are concerns out there that there's also been a water shortage. The fact is, the utilities understandably shut off power because they're worried the lines that they carried energy were going to be blown down and spark additional fires. But the Cal Fire, and when it did that, it cut off the ability to generate pumping the water. That's what caused the lack of water in these hydrants. And so Cal Fire is bringing in generators to get these pumps up and working again so that there's no longer a shortage of water coming out of these hydrants. I'm also surging all federal resources possible to Southern California, including 400 additional federal firefighters, over 30 firefighting helicopters and planes, federally supplied, firefighting planes and helicopters, and 8 Department of Defense C-130s that are equipped to suppress wildfires. Today, the Secretary of Defense also authorized 500 wildfire ground clearing personnel from the Defense Department. And I've directed the department to continue working with Governor Newsom to identify additional resources that can be provided for public safety and security. And We've secured additional firefighters and firefighting aircraft from our ally in Canada as well. I also want everyone in Southern California to know we're going to keep at it. We're sticking with this. We expect there may be a temporary break in the winds, but in some areas the winds are likely to continue well into next week. And so we're going to continue to sending everything, literally, every resource we can find that's appropriate to help the governor and the first responders. Second, we're focused on helping people who have been displaced or in many cases lost everything. You reported on, you've seen the homes just burned to the ground, whole areas burned to the ground, large areas. They've been displaced and they've lost everything. As I said, since the fire started, FEMA has been working with the state to help residents get shelter, groceries, prescriptions, and other critical goods like baby formula. We're also sent FEMA Director Criswell to Los Angeles to manage our response on the ground. She was supposed to be on this call, but we have the deputy here because she is out in the field with the governor right now, surveying what's going on. Let me close with a message to the people of Southern California. We are with you. We're not going anywhere. To the firefighters and first responders, you are heroes. Many of these firefighters are out there risking their lives and some, well, I won't go beyond that, but risking their lives, and while their own homes are in danger, their families are in danger. To the firefighters and first responders, you really are, it's not hyperbole, you're heroes. You're genuinely heroes. And the worst, this is the most widespread, devastating fire in California's history. It's amazing. And there's nobody who understands it better than the press have been covering this on a minute-to-minute basis. And you literally have to run into the flames, these firefighters. You know, that old expression, God made man, then he made a few firefighters. Who runs into flames? You know, in doing so, you're leaving your own families and who may be in harm's way as well. So we owe you. And we're going to make sure that you get every resource you need, every possible resource you need. You know, to the families who have been impacted by this disaster, you're living through a nightmare, I know. And I promise you, we're going to help you get through this and eventually recover and rebuild. I'm going to turn it over now to the Vice President before we go on to the folks in the various cabinet positions as well as agencies that control these issues. Madam Vice President, I know you're directly affected, so you fire away. No pun intended.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. President, and also for the work that everyone around this table has been doing with the appropriate sense of urgency, because this is an urgent matter. What we have seen in California, and in particular in Southern California, is apocalyptic in terms of the nature of it and the unprecedented nature of it as well. And what we are seeing is a situation that is extremely dynamic. It is very much in play, and to some degree unpredictable, because we are literally waiting to see which way the wind blows. And I cannot praise enough the local leaders, most of whom I have talked with, and in particular our firefighters, who, as the President has said, they are working around the clock. They are working 12-hour, even longer shifts, and they are doing it with a sense of optimism, but also with an understanding of how serious this moment is and how important their work is to real lives and real people. Thousands of families have been displaced. Many of those families with young children with nowhere to go. And what we know is that this is a matter of current urgency, but this is also something that is going to have an impact for months and years to come. And on that point, I will also make note of the fact that, sadly, many insurance companies have canceled insurance for a lot of the families who have been affected and will be affected, which is only going to delay or place an added burden on their ability to recover. And I think that is an important point that must be raised, and hopefully there can be some way to address that issue, because these families, so many of them, otherwise will not have the resources to recover in any meaningful way. And many of them have lost everything. In the midst, however, of all of the trauma that has occurred, we have seen extraordinary acts of heroism. I'm hearing countless stories of strangers helping strangers. People who are opening their homes where they are intact and have not had to evacuate, opening their homes to neighbors, to friends of neighbors, feeding them and providing shelter for them. And I do think that it speaks to the best of who we are as a country, which is in times of crisis, we find the heroes among us who we may not have known before, but act out of a sense of courage, but also a sense of community. And I applaud all those who are approaching this crisis with that spirit. And the bottom line is this: there are incredible heroes every day who are working right now in California on the front lines of this fire. And in particular, I want to thank the firefighters for all they are doing. They are, as the president said, putting themselves in harm's way. And they are doing the work that is about helping people who are perfect strangers to them and doing it in some of the highest moments of need that anyone could face. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liz Sherwood-Randall.
Turn it back to me.
Okay, back to the president.
Look, I've had a chance to speak with a lot of the elected officials, including the senators, some of the congresspersons in the region.
And there you've heard it from the Vice President of the United States, who is from California, and the President of the United States promising new federal support to the state of California. The President announcing a surging of officials and resources, including 400 additional federal firefighters, 30 firefighting helicopters and planes, and then the Pentagon and the Defense Department helping out as well. We're talking about 8 C-130s that are equipped to suppress wildfires. So that is a big move, as the federal government is going to help as well. Let's check in on the ground with our own Chris Van Cleve, who is among the destruction from the Eaton fire in Altadena, California. And Chris, what can you tell us about what's happening there today?
Well, Nora, down here on the ground in the cities, the winds have died down noticeably. So firefighters have been able to go basically block by block, checking all of this destruction for hotspots. They want to knock that down before the winds kick up tonight, because there can be embers that are embedded sitting under the debris. Those will start other fires. Up in the mountains, where the Eaton fire is raging, it is racing towards Mount Wilson, the highest point in Los Angeles, home to key transmission towers. There's an aerial attack going on trying to beat back that fire right now. And that's why those aerial assets the president was talking about are so important. It was from the air that firefighters were able to stop the fire last night, the Sunset Fire, as it was racing towards Hollywood. That air support is critical to stopping these giant fires. We also spent the day with people who came home to find homes like this, where all that was left was rubble. We went with one woman as she was walking through a house that she bought 10 years ago after her husband died. She's a widow, and she said she wanted to start anew. She came home to that new start, needing to start over again. One of the only things that survived the fire was a small ceramic church. She said she's taking that as a sign that someone is looking out for her. In this case, it certainly also was her neighbor, who pounded on her door and demanded that she evacuate as the fire started to rage Monday night. And it's stories like that, Nora, block after block after block. There are also tragedies. 5 people, at least, have died from this fire. One of them stayed behind to try to protect his home, and it cost him his life.
Oh, my goodness. As that phrase goes, look for the helpers, and certainly many neighbors and trying to help one another. Chris, can I ask you about what's ahead? Because even though the winds have died down a bit today, they are forecast to pick up tonight and this weekend. What's the big concern?
Well, we're talking about wind gusts of 35 to 50 miles an hour tonight. To give you some context, the Sunset Fire, that fire that threatened Hollywood last night that kicked up, those were only 20 to 25 mile an hour winds, and that fire grew to a life and property threat in under an hour. So sustained wind gusts of 30 to 50 miles an hour, that's going to blow embers 1, 2, even 3 miles away. Those embers, those are basically flying little balls of fire. When they come down on something and they can ignite it, they will. The concern is that right now you have 5 fires, and tonight you'll have even more. And we saw how fast those fires can spread when the wind is pushing them. I think everyone in Southern California is holding their breath.
Oh, my goodness, Chris Van Cleve, thank you for being there. Thank you for your reporting. I want to bring in CBS's Scott MacFarlane. He's at the White House. Scott also covers Capitol Hill for us. And Scott, the president announced that the federal government will cover 100% of the cost of recovery for 180 days. Is he going to need congressional approval for that?
He's going to need a lot more money in the near future, and that's ultimately going to be on President-elect Trump's desk and this new Congress. And Norah, the Congress of 2024 was at loggerheads constantly, even just approving disaster money. For Hurricane Helene, for example, this is going to be a problem come February and March, getting boatloads of money to the people of California to respond to what Vice President Harris just described as an apocalyptic event. This briefing from the president and vice president among their last actions in office. There are just 11 days remaining in this term, and President Biden canceled a long-awaited, heavily touted trip to Rome and to the Vatican to meet Pope Francis to be part of this response. But this will cost enormous amounts of money, Norah, and it'll have to go through Washington that has been stalemated on even the most basic of spending, including for disaster victims.
It's an excellent point, Scott MacFarlane, at the White House following those remarks from the president and the vice president. And just to update now, these wildfires in LA County are burning out of control for the third straight day. County officials estimate that thousands of structures have been destroyed. And they've also emphasized there's a lot we still don't know, including how many people are dead. Hundreds of thousands of people are under evacuation warnings. The LA County Sheriff said that some areas look like a bomb was dropped in them. Our coverage will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and we'll have a full wrap-up tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Norah O'Donnell.